y'all, it's Kim again. So, of course, everything's coming out about Joe Biden. So, that's really why I'm going through this actual report from Robert Hur on the classified documents. Some of it, I'm just curious how anybody could have missed the fact that he was cognitively declined, whatever. But anyway, let's go on. This is chapter 3 of this report. It's 388 pages. So it's a lot to read through, but it is interesting how he didn't get charged for this stuff. But it says, anyway, chapter 3, handling of classified information in the office of the vice president. As vice president, Mr. Biden received and stored classified materials at the White House, his official residence, at the Naval Observatory, his private home in Delaware, and very briefly his rental home in Virginia. He relied on staff to help deliver, store, and retrieve these classified materials. The task of tracking and retrieving these documents was challenging given the relatively small size of Mr. Biden's staff and the volume of classified material Mr. Biden received through various channels on a near daily and often urgent basis. While many members of Mr. Biden's staff sought to ensure that classified information was handled and stored properly, the Office of Vice President as a whole was unable to account for all the classified material Mr. Biden received and retained. Mr. Biden was known to remove and keep classified material from his briefing books for future use, and his staff struggled and sometimes failed to retrieve these materials. And there was no procedure at all for tracking some of the classified material Mr. Biden received outside his briefing books. Mr. Biden also kept some material on his person or in his briefcase that he carried between the West Wing and his residences. Staff did not go through the briefcase to retrieve or archive material from it. It says these gaps in the tracking and retrieval of Mr. Biden's classified material made it more difficult to determine when, how, and why many of the classified documents later found in Mr. Biden's home and think tank ended up where they did not belong. Structure of the House of the Vice President. Structure of the Office of the Vice President. Numerous witnesses told us that Mr. Biden relied on his staff to help transport, store, or return classified materials he received as Vice President and to ensure that those materials were handled properly. As summarized below, several groups of staff were involved with the handling of classified material. National Security Affairs staff. The Office of the Vice President had its own National Security Affairs staff that supported the Vice President, his National Security Advisor, and his Deputy National Security Advisor. This office was distinct from President Obama's much larger National Security Council staff, which had its own systems for tracking and logging classified material that went to the president. The National Security Affairs staff consisted of 1, the National Security Advisor and staff, and 2, the Executive Secretary team. The National Security Advisor staff included a mix of political staff and detailees from agencies such as the State Department. They provided substantive advice to the Vice President on matters of foreign policy and national security. While the National Security Advisors often attended meetings and briefings with Mr. Biden where classified documents were discussed, these advisors did not view themselves as responsible for retrieving any classified materials from Mr. Biden or ensuring that he stored them properly. The Executive Secretary team had an administrative role. It compiled, provided, tracked, and retrieved classified material from Mr. Biden. It was a small group composed mostly of detailees from agencies who provided administrative support and assisted in compiling classified briefing books for Mr. Biden. The Executive Secretary, an experienced career military officer, worked closely with the Director of Programs, who continued through the transition from the Bush administration and served through the entirety of the Obama administration. The Executive Secretary team had little direct access to Mr. Biden and relied on others to deliver and retrieve classified briefing books. These others included military aides, naval enlisted aides, personal aides, and front office assistants. There's a bunch of footnotes. Um, military aides. Military aides were service members on detail from the Department of Defense. Their primary role was to ensure continuity of operations should something happen to the president. They also helped deliver classified material from the National Security Affairs staff to Mr. Biden when he was not at the White House, and brought classified material back when Mr. Biden was finished with it. This included printed classified materials and compiling classified binders for Mr. Biden when he was traveling. Military aides were not responsible for ensuring that all materials delivered to the vice president were retrieved or properly disposed of, or for otherwise tracking classified documents. But they assisted with the handling of classified documents because of their high-level security clearances, proximity to the vice president, and access to proper storage containers for classified materials such as lockable bags. Naval enlisted aides. Naval enlisted aides supported Mr. Biden at the Naval Observatory and at his personal home in Delaware, as well as all foreign and domestic travel. Their primary duties included cooking, cleaning, and laundry for the vice president. Like military aides, they served as go-betweens for the delivery and retrieval of classified information due to their security clearances and proximity to the vice president. They were the only staff members who regularly accessed Mr. Biden's private space on the second floor of the Naval Observatory residence and at the Delaware residence. At times, they delivered classified material to him on the second floor of the Naval Observatory, and when Mr. Biden left classified material out and unattended in those private spaces, they retrieved and secured it. Mr. Biden regularly received and reviewed classified material in the Naval Observatory and his Delaware home and left that material out where the naval enlisted aides collected it when he was finished with it. During his vice presidency, naval enlisted aides occasionally found classified materials in various locations on the second floor of the Naval Observatory and in Delaware. They either sent those materials back to the White House directly or through the military aides, who brought them to the executive secretary team for proper disposal. Personal aides or body men. Mr. Biden's personal aide or body man, who was always physically present with him at the White House and when traveling except to Delaware, also delivered and retrieved classified documents for him. Personal aides typically had top secret, sensitive, compartmented information clearances and were read into code word compartments involving sensitive, compartmented information as needed. They handled the logistics of Mr. Biden's schedule and ensured he had everything he needed. They coordinated with military aides and national security affairs staff to handle the flow of classified material to and from Mr. Biden, but they did not track it. Front office assistants at the White House, 2 assistants sat in the front office of Mr. Biden's West Wing office, along with the personal aide and at various times a counselor to the vice president. Staffers believed the West Wing office was a SCIF and otherwise approved for the discussion of classified information and treated it as such. The assistants did not intentionally keep classified material for Mr. Biden in their front office space and recall that the only storage area they knew of for classified material in the vice president's West Wing space was the safe in his office closet, which they generally did not access. Assistants retrieved unclassified material from an outbox on Mr. Biden's desk, kept it in a box in their office space, and periodically sent it to the White House Office of Records Management to be archived in compliance with the Presidential Records Act. Let's see. When Mr. Biden left classified material in his outbox or handed it to an assistant, the assistant typically called his national security affairs team to retrieve it or returned it to the Situation Room. Counsel to the vice president. The various staff members within the office of the vice president responsible for delivering, storing, retrieving, and tracking classified documents relied on guidance from the council to the vice president. Mr. Biden said his own counsel, separate from the White House counsel's office. The council had a top secret, sensitive, compartmented information clearance. In the early days of the administration, Cynthia Hogan, Mr. Biden's first counsel, developed policies and procedures for the proper handling and storage of classified materials in the office of the vice president, the White House counsel's office, and other White House components also provided guidance on the proper handling of classified material. According to schedules and other documents, Hogan met with a number of White House employees to discuss the handling of classified material, including employees from the National Security Council and the White House Office of Records Management, the Presidential Records Act, and archiving of records. Mr. Biden's staff was also responsible for ensuring the documents were properly archived as required by the Presidential Records Act. The act gives the United States complete ownership, possession, and control of all presidential records and vice presidential records, which must be retained and sent to the National Archives at the end of the administration. The statute defines presidential records and vice presidential records broadly to include documentary materials created or received in the course of conducting activities which relate to or have an effect upon the carrying out of the constitutional, statutory, and or other official or ceremonial duties of the president or vice president, including memoranda, correspondence, papers, photographs, and electronic records. Mr. Biden's executive secretary team was responsible for ensuring that classified documents were properly archived according to the act. The White House Office of Records Management handled the archiving of unclassified documents. During the first week of the administration, a member of the White House counsel's office briefed Mr. Biden on the act's record-keeping requirements. Hogan put in place a procedure to make sure that presidential and vice presidential records were collected and properly archived. She circulated a White House counsel memo on the act's requirements to employees in the office of the vice president. She also met with Mr. Biden's personal aide to discuss the act and its record-keeping requirements, including the need to collect and preserve Mr. Biden's briefing books. 3, the handling of classified material in the office of the vice president. A, classified products. Mr. Biden received classified documents in 3 primary forms: a classified binder prepared by his national security staff, the president's daily brief, and materials delivered to him as needed by his staff. Classified briefing book. Most days, the executive secretary team compiled a classified briefing book for Mr. Biden. It was a binder of materials drafted or selected by Mr. Biden's advisors to prepare him for the day and upcoming trips. The executive security team assembled the book and ensured its delivery to Mr. Biden in coordination with other staff as described above. The executive secretary team also tracked the book's return. Once returned, the books were stored in a safe in the executive secretary team's office. Periodically, the team sent the books to the White House Office of Records Management to be archived. President's Daily Brief. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence compiled a collection of intelligence community products known as the President's Daily Brief. Mr. Biden was assigned his own briefer, who also briefed his National Security Advisor, Deputy National Security Advisor, and his last Chief of Staff. The Director of National Intelligence required inclusion of a core group of articles, while the briefer supplemented articles tailored to Mr. Biden's interests and requests. Early in his vice presidency, Mr. Biden declined to receive oral briefings from his own briefer and instead joined President Obama for his briefings in the Oval Office. Throughout his tenure, Mr. Biden received a written brief first on paper in a binder and beginning in 2014 on a portable electronic device. Mr. Biden's briefer generally retrieved the copy of the brief delivered to Mr. Biden. Mr. Biden's executive secretary team stored the briefs in the safe until the briefer retrieved them as needed materials. Mr. Biden also received classified documents on an as needed basis, hand delivered to him by staff, or printed to his West Wing office on a secure printer. The Naval Observatory also had a classified printer with military aids, or the military aids used to print and deliver such materials to Mr. Biden there. The executive secretary team lacked a formal system for tracking classified documents delivered to, this is a lot, okay, to Mr. Biden on an as needed basis, and no one else in the office of the president or vice president appears to have tracked them either. Several of the marked classified documents recovered by the FBI in this investigation appear to have given or have been given to Mr. Biden outside the briefing books. Efforts to retrieve and track classified material. In the early days of Mr. Biden's vice presidency, his counsel, Hogan, instructed Mr. Biden's personal aides that all classified material provided to Mr. Biden should be returned to the executive secretary team. Although there was a safe in Mr. Biden's office, Hogan told Mr. Biden's personal aides that we don't want to store any classified material in the West Wing office, so just look to hand this stuff off as soon as it comes to you. The executive secretary team sought to retrieve Mr. Biden's classified briefing books every day, but could not always do so. At times, he kept one or more classified briefing books for his own reference or because he was not done with the material. And on occasion, he removed one or more briefing memos from the classified briefing book before returning it. In 2010, the executive secretary team raised concerns about the number of classified briefing books that Mr. Biden had not returned, and the fact that even when they were returned, some of the content was missing. These concerns were raised with Hogan as well as Mr. Biden's personal aide and military aides. Emails indicate that the executive secretary team alerted Hogan to the issue at least in June of 2010, when nearly 30 of the classified briefing books from the first 6 months of 2010 were outstanding, and in August 2010, when Mr. Biden failed to return top secret, sensitive, compartmented information, also referred to as code word contents of a classified briefing book that he had received during a trip to the Hamptons in New York. We were unable to determine whether these materials were ever recovered, although they were likely found and disposed of by military aides or naval enlisted aides. The return of classified briefing books without all of their contents frustrated the executive secretary team. In response, Hogan implemented additional security procedures described below, but even after those measures were implemented, the executive secretary team continued to struggle to retrieve classified briefing books from Mr. Biden. We were able to trace one of the marked classified documents recovered by the FBI to a briefing book, a 2015 memorandum recovered from the Penn Biden Center, but we were not able to determine whether other recovered documents came from briefing books or were handed or sent to Mr. Biden on an as-needed basis. August 2010, briefing of Mr. Biden on the handling of classified material. Days after the top secret code word book went missing in 2010, Hogan met with Mr. Biden to discuss the handling of classified material. Before the meeting, she prepared a briefing memo for him. The memo, which was addressed to Mr. Biden and dated August 17, 2010, outlined our procedures for handling your classified briefing material that must be maintained at all times, including the following. Classified information of any kind may only be reviewed or discussed in secured locations and never in public place such as on a train. The classified briefing books must remain in your custody or that of your cleared staff at all times unless they are in your safe. Classified material must be returned to your national security staff as soon as you're finished with them. Classified materials may never be left unattended, but must be secured in an appropriate safe or transferred to an individual authorized to transport them in an appropriate locked bag whenever they are not in your personal custody. And whenever possible, classified materials should remain at the White House complex. If you need to receive classified materials while you're at your residence at NAV OBS or in Delaware, the military aides will bring the material to you and then wait to take the material back when you're finished so that it can be stored safely. When interviewed, Hogan did not recall the August 2010 meeting with Mr. Biden. She did, however, identify her handwritten talking points on best practices. Even though she did not remember their content, she identified her handwriting and said she likely created them in advance of her meeting with Mr. Biden. According to her talking points, she briefed Mr. Biden on such best practices as much as making sure that classified info stays in the White House complex whenever possible and is returned to national security staff at the end of each day. She also counseled Mr. Biden that any classified material taken from the White House must be transported by military aides in locked bags, and that military aides must retrieve the classified material when Mr. Biden was done with it. After the briefing, Mr. Biden sent Hogan an email through one of his front office assistants thanking her for the security briefing. Despite the Hogan memo's language that the office of the vice president must follow certain procedures for handling classified information, Hogan received or conceived of the memo as describing best practices rather than legal requirements. That view is consistent with the executive order governing handling and storage of classified information, which, as explained in Chapter 1, does not apply to a sitting vice president. As outlined below, Mr. Biden and his staff did not follow Hogan's guidance to the letter. Okay, I'm going to stop it here. I got to leave in a little bit, but we'll pick back up on D on page 52 of this chapter 3. Yeah. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great afternoon. See y'all. Bye.